Here with the details. Jane.
Thanks, George. It's a disease described as one of the Cinderella cancers. Prostate cancer gets relatively little research funding, and yet it affects more men in this country than any other cancer. 35,000 are diagnosed every year. About 10,000 of them die from it, most from the very aggressive treatment-resistant form which this drug, abiraterone, is designed to tackle.
Can I just put this on your arm?
This time last year, Rick Flaum was in such pain from his cancer he could barely even walk. He has the most aggressive type of prostate cancer. It's almost always fatal. But since he enrolled in the abiraterone trial, his life has been transformed.
Within about 3 months, the reversal was incredibly dramatic in that I was able to return to normal activities, which meant swimming and bicycling and just generally living a normal life.
So how does abiraterone work? Well, in milder forms of the disease, drugs can help block the male hormones which fuel tumour growth. But with the most aggressive type of prostate cancer, known as tiger cancer, the prognosis is pretty bleak. Normal treatment doesn't work, so the tumours keep on growing and spreading. Researchers have discovered they generate their own male hormones, so they can keep feeding themselves. Abiraterone interferes with that hormone generation, and in most cases, the tumours shrink and other symptoms like bone pain are eased even when the cancer's spread. These are very early days, but the drug could have wider applications.
We hope in the future we'll use this drug earlier and earlier in the treatment of this disease, even when the cancer is first diagnosed. But at present, the trials are trying to really get this drug approved for widespread treatment all around the world for patients with the tiger cancers that have spread widely, that are invariably fatal unless treated.
There are still a lot of questions. How much will the drug cost? How much could it prolong a patient's life? Will it work against other cancers? More trials are underway, and it won't be widely available for at least another 3 years. George.
Jane, thank you. Tens of thousands of children in England are heading off on their summer holidays, still not knowing how they did in their SAT. A quarter of the English papers taken by 14-year-olds have yet to be marked. The Conservatives are calling the situation a fiasco, but School Secretary Ed Balls says the rules mean he can't intervene directly. Joe Coburn reports.
This summer's SATs fiasco has left thousands of children uncertain about their future. And the misery goes on with further delays in results. A quarter of English papers for 14-year-olds still remain unmarked, and there are questions about the standard of marking. Today, the finger of blame was being pointed firmly at the School Secretary Ed Balls.
The first priority is to ensure that schools receive their 2008 results in an orderly way with the minimum of delay. And I share the frustration and anger of teachers, children and parents about the delays in the release of this year's test results. This should not have happened.
The Conservatives have said Mr Balls should be held to account for what's gone wrong. They're demanding to know what steps he took to put the marking system back on track.
What meetings did he have? Which interventions did he authorise? Which officials did he pursue? Or did he, like an exam candidate who hasn't done his homework, just cross his fingers, hope for the best and pray that he wouldn't be asked any tough questions?
So what are the options? The government says it can't intervene and must be independent of the marking system. The Secretary of State has already set up an inquiry to look at the mistakes made and see what lessons can be learnt. Ministers could scrap the system of SATs and hand over the testing of pupils to teachers. ETS, the American company in charge of marking the papers, is now in a legal dispute for failing to deliver on time.
They are clearly in breach of contract. They have failed to deliver on all fronts, and there are still children who've gone on holiday last week and this week without having their SAT results.
MPs have now left Parliament for their summer break, although the School Secretary Ed Balls will be reporting regularly on the progress of the outstanding results. He says he's accountable but not responsible. What's clear, though, is that the whole culture of government testing of 11 and 14-year-olds is now under question. Joe Coburn, BBC News, Westminster.
After many months of rising prices, some of the biggest supermarket chains have now cut the cost of fuel by up to 5 pence a litre. They say it's in response to recent falls in the price of oil. Here's our economics editor, Hugh Pym, on whether it's the start of a downward trend.
Fuel price cuts. Motorists haven't seen that for a while. Supermarkets and one of the big oil companies announced the moves. They said in response to the turnaround in world markets, which has seen crude oil prices fall sharply from record highs.
We've seen lower demand in America and Western Europe as high prices start to bite. And we've also seen early signs that economic growth in China, which of course has driven much of these oil prices, is starting to slow off.
And now that's beginning to feed through to pump prices. Asda said it would cut unleaded and diesel by 3p a litre. Morrison's announced price cuts of 4p for both fuels. BP has said prices have fallen by up to 4p at forecourts it directly operates. Sainsbury's plan to repeat a 5p a litre discount for customers who spend £50 or more. Tesco has announced a 4p cut on top of an existing promotion. Now, some retail analysts say that while these moves are linked to the world oil markets, they've got as much to do with supermarkets battling against one another to come up with new promotions to get shoppers into the stores at the time of a consumer slowdown.
But it's a very tough time at the moment for all retailers. Anything retailers can do to get people into their stores really helps. Selling petrol is a really good way of getting people onto your site, and if they're there filling up with petrol, the chances are they're going to go in and fill up a trolley full of groceries as well.
After rising to nearly $150 a barrel earlier this month, oil prices are back below $130. They could drop further if demand falls because leading economies are slowing. But these markets are highly volatile, and what goes down can just as quickly come back up again. Hugh Pym, BBC News.
And there's more national and international news over on the BBC News channel, but now we can join our news teams where you are. Good night.
Good evening from BBC London News. I'm Mike Ramsden. There should have been a full-scale public inquiry into the shooting of Jean-Charles de Menezes by armed police in London. That was the admission today of the chair of the Home Affairs Select Committee, Keith Vaz. Mr de Menezes died exactly 3 years ago. Our Home Affairs correspondent Guy Smith reports.
A minute's silence at 10:06 this morning outside Stockwell Tube. The exact time 3 years ago when police shot dead an innocent man. Something neither Scotland Yard nor the family of Jean-Charles de Menezes have forgotten. The 27-year-old electrician from Brazil was mistaken for a suicide bomber.
Things begin to change now. From last year to now we got the support of the mail. Before we didn't have any support from the mail. Now we got a mail who supports us.
Today, Boris Johnson sent the family his condolences. So far, there have been 2 inquiries and a health and safety trial at the Old Bailey in which the Met was found guilty of endangering the public. No officers, though, have faced any disciplinary action.
But a long-awaited inquest this September into the death of Jean-Charles de Menezes on this platform here in Stockwell could prove difficult for London's police chief.
The information I have available is that this shooting is directly linked to the ongoing and expanding anti-terrorist operation.
Questions will again be asked whether Sir Ian Blair really had no idea until the next day about the mistake made by his officers. The family this lunchtime moved on to Westminster to send a message to MPs. One of them, the chairman of the powerful Home Affairs Select Committee. He admitted things should have been done differently.
What we needed to do, perhaps right at the start, was to have a full-scale public inquiry rather than what we've had over the last few years.
A sculpture in the shape of the Brazilian flag is now positioned outside the House of Commons. It's made from 1,096 flowers, one for every day, which has passed since Jean-Charles died. And now it's up to the inquest to perhaps give his family some sort of closure. Guy Smith, BBC London News, Westminster.
The family of London's youngest victim of knife crime this year met the Prime Minister Gordon Brown today. David Idowu was 14 when he died in hospital 2 weeks ago after being attacked in Borough last month. Matthew Morris reports.
Let them know that we are sorrowful. Let them know that
the parents of 14-year-old David Idowu preparing for a journey of sadness and anger.
It is time to shout to God for help to get rid of this demon that is sucking off our innocent hearts.
David Idowu was stabbed on this South London street on June the 17th. He died in hospital nearly 3 weeks later.
He fought for his life and we hoped that and prayed that he was going to get better. But unfortunately, passed away.
What do we want? Peace! When do we want it now?
From there, around 200 friends, family members and local residents take to the streets. Tosin grew up with David. At this point, she does not yet know if Gordon Brown will make time to see them.
They claim to be the voice of the people, so they should do what our parents have appointed them to do.
The march is heading towards Downing Street. The aim is to take a copy of this letter to the Prime Minister. It's calling for urgent action to avoid, it says, condemning children, particularly in the black communities in London, to a lifetime of fear. David's family, supported by some MPs, is invited into Downing Street. What did you say to him?
I read out my statements that I wrote about the issue of knife and gun crime and possible solutions, and he was really happy with how I read it and what was in the statement, and he told me that there were really vital points there and which he's going to carry out.
So a positive outcome after weeks of despair. This is one family determined not to be forgotten. Matthew Morris, BBC London News.
An officer from Kent Police has been transferred from duties at the Channel Tunnel Terminal in Folkestone after a disabled child and his parents were detained under the Terrorism Act. Kent Police say the officer was inappropriate, offensive, unprofessional and tactless. Staff applying to work in the most security-sensitive jobs at airports will be checked to see if they've committed offences abroad. The Transport Secretary Ruth Kelly says the checks will only apply to new applicants, not existing employees. For many families in London, childcare creates one of the biggest bills at the end of each month. So how can parents cut back? Well, it seems they're opting for sharing the time and the expense of a nanny, allowing more women to go back to work. Sarah Harris reports.
10-month-olds Honor and Hugo are very close and occasionally fall out just like a brother and sister. But they're not even related. They're being looked after by nanny Karina so their mums can go back to work. It's an arrangement that's becoming more popular, with one London agency reporting the number of nanny shares has doubled in the last 12 months.
Childcare in general is expensive. It's all out of taxed income. So if parents can find a way to share the costs, specifically a nanny share is an example of that, then so much the better. So definitely with the credit crunch, we're seeing more and more people asking for nanny shares as a way of paying for childcare.
Hugo? With the babies playing happily with their nanny, Hugo's mum Catherine is on her way to work near Charing Cross. She met her nanny share partner at antenatal classes, and aside from saving money, they felt it would be good for the children.
For me, I think it's really important for the babies to have a sort of social element, that they sort of interact with one another. It helps with their development.
There are more nannies in and around London than anywhere else in the country. It's estimated 66% are based in the capital, with another 16% in the rest of the South East, leaving 18% for the whole of the rest of the UK. Experts say even with sharing, employers should be clear about who's paying costs, like tax and national insurance. But whatever the complications, these babies' mums say in the credit crunch, a problem shared is a problem halved. Sarah Harris, BBC London News.
It'll be hot and sunny tomorrow. Here's Peter Cockcroft with the details.
The cloudy skies mean we're in for a sultry night. Quite a bit of sunshine tomorrow. The heat turned up a notch. We're looking at a top temperature of 26 Celsius tomorrow. We had 25 today. The sun rises at 12 minutes past 5 and it sets just after 9 in the evening. That's the forecast.
More on the capture of Radovan Karadzic on Newsnight, starting now on BBC Two. We're back in breakfast tomorrow morning. From us all here, goodbye for now.
Catch every note. The BBC Proms, Sundays and Mondays at 7:30 on BBC 4.
Well, it was the warmest day of the year so far in Scotland, and warm too in the Isle of Wight. In response to that, we saw a dust devil reported, and in the warmth in the southeast, we saw some flying ants putting in an appearance this evening. Tomorrow, another fine and warm day across the UK with patchy cloud and sunny spells. Now, we saw a fair bit of cloud across some western parts of the UK earlier today, a little bit of drizzle through the northwest of England up into the west of Scotland. We're going to keep it fairly cloudy across these western areas overnight tonight, but any rain is really confined to the far northwest of Scotland. Through the small hours of the morning, we'll see a little bit of mist and fog thickening up. Could get a little bit dense in parts of Wales and the southwest of England around about the dawn period, by which time temperatures not falling away too far. 16, 17 degrees, quite warm in the southeast. More generally, 13 or 14 degrees. Now, any mist and fog shouldn't last too long down across the southwest of England. It'll melt away, and that morning sunshine should, all in all, be a lovely start to the day here. 15 or so degrees, light winds, and a good deal of sunshine. Fine and sunny right the way along the south coast, but head a little bit further inland, and there will be a bit more in the way of cloud around. But it's a dry, bright look to things and really quite warm, and with light winds as well, it should be a pleasant enough start to the day. Fine too for the northeast of England. The northwest will see some thicker cloud through the morning, but things will improve. A bright start to what will be another warm day in the northeast of Scotland. Further west, a little bit of cloud around through the morning, a few spots of light rain and drizzle, not looking too bad in Northern Ireland, and parts of Wales, central and eastern areas should see some spells of sunshine, but a bit more cloud in western Wales, but it won't last for too long. We're going to melt a lot of that cloud away. The cloud in the northwest of England too disappearing as we get on into the afternoon, and in the southwest of Scotland, Northern Ireland, good spells of sunshine, and in response to that, it's going to be that bit warmer. Temperatures in Manchester up to 25 degrees, similar in Cardiff, and 24 for both Aberdeen and Newcastle. Now, the Thursday looks like another fine, warm day, a southeasterly breeze dragging in that warm air from the near continent. So another fine summer's day for most of us, except maybe in the far northeast. Lower cloud here and an onshore breeze, a bit cooler, but generally quite warm in the sunshine. However, there will be a few heavy showers in the far northwest. The bulk of the day on Friday looks pretty good for most of us. Warm, sunny, a fine summer's day, but there is wind and rain gathering in the far southwest, and that could spread to many of us come Friday night. But by daytime, the pollen levels and the UV levels are on the high side, and if you want some more details on that, you can find it on the website. Good night.
Fighting to make history. In a poignant story of triumph over adversity, Geoffrey Rush gives an Oscar-winning performance as the Australian pianist David Heathcott. It's Shine at 11:20 here on BBC One, after other signs of brilliance.